If you've been holding crypto for about the last 2 months, this is pretty much what your portfolio looked like. Even when the powers that be were trying to convince us, you'd better sell cheap, many of us hardened investors instead said, it's not for sale. And with the Crypto Fear and Greed Index currently sitting at 16, coming down from 20 yesterday, crypto ended up going on a very nice run, with Bitcoin up 5.99%, Ethereum up 7.6%, XRP up 6.2%, BNB up 6.27%, Solana up 8.91%, Dogecoin up 7.73%, Cardano up 12.12%. Chainlink up 11.92%, Stellar up 8.87%, Sui sure had an impressive run, up 21.53% on the day, Kronos up 6.85%, Polkadot up 10.41%, Aave up 11.81%, Near up 10.62%, Athena up 11.39%, even Pepe made a very nice hop today, up 13.22%. Pump.fun got pumped up at 17.58%. SCI up 11.9%. And even Pudgy Penguins is up 26.34%, waddling its way well into the profits. It sure is nice to see some green on the daily chart. Even the weekly's not looking too bad, with Maker up 28.1%, Sky up 28.3%, ZEC got kicked pretty hard, down 39.5% after its massive run. Jumping over to the monthly, Rain is still on top at 131% in the green. Telcoin up 79.4%. It's had an incredible run and is holding up very, very well. MYX up 54.6%, and Quant is currently up 23.3%. Even XMR is holding on to some decent profits, currently up 15.4%. And a very interesting thing that I noticed today is looking at the top 1,000 by crypto market cap, we can see that every single category is in the red except for the 101 to 200 range, which somehow happened to grind out a positive 129% gain, with the top 1 through 100 losing the least out of the remaining 9, only losing 28.8%. This is absolutely incredible and literally just defies the odds. And why the markets have been deep in the red for the past 2 months and retail was crying, "Crypto is crashing! Sell it all!" I was quietly adding to my positions. And as always, this is not financial advice and is nothing short of the rantings and ravings of a man who, even in the winter, insists on walking around the house in flip-flops. Jumping over and taking a look at the XRP ETFs, these companies are still accumulating XRP, with Canary Capital currently at 161.4 million, up from 155.8 million just 4 days ago. Bitwise at 83.4 million, up from 80.5 million 4 days ago. Franklin Templeton has had some pretty decent gains, up to 53.2 million, up from 36.1 million just 4 days ago. Grayscale is up to 38 million, up from 34.2 million just 4 days ago. And Osprey is up to 30 million flat, which is actually a reduction from 4 days ago, where they were sitting at 32.5 million. But we are seeing a gradual accumulation continue, at least within the top 4 companies' ETFs, with the exception of Osprey, which is a very good sign. But do me a favor and hit that like button before we get started. I would really appreciate it. But first off, jumping over and taking a look at ZBCN, this is on the daily chart. We can see that ZBCN has been trading within this nice triangle pattern for quite some time, going back to the all-time high set right back here in late May of 2025. Since then, price has made a 3-wave move down, a 3-wave move up, and another 3-wave move down, which looks like this C leg right here is going to consist of a 5-wave move to the downside, which, if this is the case, looks to me like we still have one more push to the downside to finish off this 5-wave move. Price has broken through this bullish order block, as you can see right here below the lower trend line, but this price that we have seen in these last 2 daily candles came down perfectly back into that bullish order block, bouncing perfectly off of this lower trend line. So it is exhibiting quite a bit of strength here. So even though technically this bullish order block has been broken, I've kept it on the chart because of this. But if it does come for that additional push, I expect it to end up in this red bar area right here on the daily. Price is still trading below the equilibrium zone. It's trading below the 50% line on the Gaussian channel. But a lot of times we'll end up seeing a 5-wave move within this particular type of pattern. I've talked about it in the past. It certainly doesn't happen every time, but it's something that I look out for on a regular basis, where we have one move up, down for a wave 2, up for a wave 3, down for a wave 4, moving into the wave 5, which typically is your breakout wave. Now that's not Elliott wave, it's just a general wave count. But ZBCN definitely has its challenges cut out for it, because if it can eventually break out above this upper trend line, it has 2 twin bearish order blocks to contend with right here, both of which are on the daily chart, which means that it's got a lot of work to do to get through this, because there's probably a lot of orders resting right up in this area, which could very easily hold price down. We might end up seeing something like to where the price would jump through here, bounce off of this order block area, come back down for a retest off of this upper trend line, then seeing a move that could give it the momentum it needs to get through them. But this chart just continues to look better and better and better. And a lot of times people look at these dips through the lower trend line as being a sign of weakness. I see these as being a good thing at times, because by pushing down to these lower levels, it allows price to sweep any remaining liquidity from previous lows, as well as areas of consolidation that we saw right here between the wave 3 and 4 on this 5-wave impulse up to the all-time high. I'm still continuing to accumulate a little bit of ZBCN each day, building my position, and I'm going to continue to do so as I feel it's still undervalued. And even if it does drop down lower, I'm simply just going to continue to accumulate, looking more at the long-term perspective rather than this short-term perspective, which really has a tendency to throw us off a lot of times. But ZBCN is definitely one of the cryptos that I like and I believe has a very bright future. If you'd like to support my channel and give me the fuel that I need to continue to make these YouTube videos, the easiest way to do that is by joining the Patreon, which includes 3 paid membership levels to choose from. And if you've been thinking about trading spot, or if you're just looking for a place to swap your cryptos for 0 fees, that's right, for 0 fees, use my code and sign up for Bitunix. You'll be glad that you did. Now, jumping over and taking a look at TEL, this is the monthly chart. We can see that it's trading within this nice triangle pattern, very similar to what we were seeing in ZBCN and what I showed in my last video in regard to Algorand. The price is currently trading in this area here, but if you've seen my previous videos, you know that I believe that this move we're currently seeing is actually a much smaller fractal of a coming move that is going to be much, much bigger, which this chart gives you a really good idea of what I believe is going to come in the very near future. Keep in mind, this is the monthly chart. This won't happen overnight, and it will take quite a bit of time. But when we jump over to the 4-hour chart, we can see the larger wedge here on the outside with this smaller descending wedge on the inside of that pattern, which traded out of a corrective WXY, breaking into this pattern that we're currently seeing now. If we zoom into that pattern a little bit deeper to get a better look at what we're dealing with here, we can see that so far the price is traded up in a 1, 2, 3. And is currently trading within the wave 4, of which will be a 5-wave move to the upside, and of which I believe is a smaller fractal of a much larger wave set. I do believe that once this wave 5 in yellow here is complete, and the correction starts, that this will actually end up being the wave 1, with the correction being the wave 2 of a primary wave that could take us to much, much higher prices by the time that entire primary wave has played out, which, as I said already, will take a considerable amount of time. But if we dial in a little bit closer, it looks to me like we're not quite finished here on this wave 4, forming a corrective wave, which at this point appears to be a WXY. We can see there's a 3-wave move here, a 3-wave move here, which looks like this last push we've seen here would actually be the completion of this X wave. So it does appear to me that we still have this Y wave to the downside remaining, which could push down here to the 618 or perhaps down to this lower line right here from this channel. It doesn't have to push that low, but it does look to me like this isn't quite complete yet. But the only way to really find out is to sit back and watch and see how things turn out. But we can see here, this three-wave move that first came in went perfectly to the 0.5 fib, which is pretty much about what you would expect. But I do believe at some point we are going to see this termination complete, at which point we would be moving into the wave 5, with this being the wave 4 termination, which would take us into a potential move up to these fib levels right here, which are resting just below that 1 cent mark in the 009 range. Now, if it ends up being that this is actually a smaller fractal of a much larger pattern, with this being the wave 1 termination moving into the wave 2, then we could expect to see the price of Telcoin follow through with the wave 2 moving into the wave 3, into the wave 4, into the wave 5 termination here. Now, these aren't exact. This is just laid out to give you an idea of what I'm thinking. But the previous all-time high is sitting in this particular area. So if this does play out to be a smaller fractal of a much larger wave count, we very well could move into this range here and set a new all-time high in Telcoin. And with everything going on in Telcoin right now, becoming the world's first digital asset depository or crypto bank, I think that the potential for Telcoin to make some incredible moves, even at the very least on speculation, is definitely in the cards. They've certainly got a lot of work to do as far as their organization and everything else that goes into their company. They have a really big project and a lot on the table. So it's going to take some time. But I do think that this first mover advantage is absolutely going to come into play. And Telcoin is also another position that I am adding to a little bit each day, continuing to build my position over time. And it will definitely be one to watch. But one thing's for sure, you don't want to end up being like Joffrey when you have the potential to become the first king in your family. Ancestry will help you discover your family story. Wait, what? Good luck and have a great day.